Hey guys, Mike, your host of Craft Beer Storm. And it's Monday, so we interview somebody today. We're 360 in the craft beer world. If you touch craft beer, if you're involved with craft beer, we want you on. So I got connected with Hilary Leister, and she's the Senior Beverage Coordinator for Interstate Hotels and Resorts. And they cover a lot of establishments, a lot of hotels and resorts, and they buy a lot of beer and wine. And she knows what she's talking about. She's also in undergoing a Cicerone path and the sommelier path. These are, sommelier's expert for wine and Cicerone's expert for beer. They have like 40 plus beverage partners. They do food and beverage, a whole bunch of information that we had a great conversation. So I want to get to it. So here it is. We're here with Hilary Leister. She's the Senior Beverage Coordinator for Interstate Hotels and Resorts. How you doing, Hilary?
I'm doing great tonight. Thanks for making time for me.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you came on. Because we do Craft Beer Storm. We do 360, so it's not just interviewing founders and brewers, it's interviewing everybody in the industry, whoever touches craft beer. And you manage this huge like Interstate is huge. I didn't even realize it, and I was looking at their revenue. It was like $4 billion with a B, and I'm like, my God. And they're I guess you're managing resorts and hotels around the world.
Absolutely. And just to clarify, I actually work for a alcoholic beverage marketing and promotions firm called IMI Agency. And They are based out of Atlanta, but Interstate is my client. So I am in their office, 100% of the time during the week, and I'm solely focused on, executing their beverage program. So they're my one client, wine, beer, and spirits, anything they need, I'm there for them.
Right. And then sourcing all that and getting it to the right places. That must be very challenging. You handle like worldwide or?
So I actually only handle the domestic hotels. So any international hotels are handled by either, VPs of food and beverage or other individuals in those countries. So I'm just concerned with the domestic locations.
And how many locations do they have? Would you know that in the U.S.?
Absolutely. So, honestly, it changes every day because we're such a monster. Hotels are coming in and out all the time.
You are a monster. It's crazy. Yeah.
So, whatever number I give you today, it's going to be different tomorrow.
It'll be different tomorrow. All right. Ballpark.
Of course. And then, they are going through a large merger at the moment.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
Which I believe went through, just last Friday. So, the number is only going to increase in the next few months.
My God. So it's a big number of hotels. So, it was interesting to you because you do a lot of things. You also have a history and, you're into the Cicerone and sommelier. So sommelier is for wine, like kind of an expert in wine and suggesting wine and food and wine pairing. And then Cicerone is the same thing for beer, how to drink a beer, a glass, what kind of food to pair it with, the characteristics of beer. So how's that going? I think you're studying for both of them and you pass certain parts.
Absolutely. So I passed the Cicerone beer server exam back in, I think, 2014. So that is, the level 1 exam and basically goes through all of the different beer styles in the U.S. and, internationally. So I studied those in depth. And then the level 1 sommelier test was quite challenging. So I passed that in 2016. Wow. So, I'm not sure, what the future will hold, but I would love to pursue those further, so we'll see what happens.
I need to pursue them too. It's on my list, especially the Cicerone. I got to get on that. I make beer. I make beer. It's just the whole thing about, the food pairing, which that's one of the efforts. And that's why we got connected because I'm doing, food and beer pairings and events at hotels because the hotels have vacant rooms and they want to get rid of them. And, hey, why don't we have an event here, a beer and food pairing event? We can showcase your chef, your food, and then we'll have a local brewer come in and they can showcase their beer. And then everybody gets knowledge about beer. We'll do a presentation on beer. And we already had one of the hotels reach back to us, the Fairfield Inn in Woburn. So we're calling them out now. They got to get back to me. But they want to do a customer appreciation night. So I think that's fantastic. So we can do that for any hotel pretty much. And we're located in New England, so maybe the Massachusetts area we can start, and then we'll see what happens from there.
Yeah, and I mean, I can't even tell you, you bring up pairings. I can't even tell you the importance of pairings because it helps make wines, beers, whatever you're drinking more approachable for the guest. And also, most importantly, can help you increase revenue. And it's such an easy way to increase revenue. Saying, oh, you just ordered that stout, oh my gosh, that pairs amazing with our cheesecake. I see that you're finishing up dinner. Would you like me to, grab you a piece? It's such an easy way just to get some extra money on the check. And of course, more tips in our service pockets, right?
Oh, absolutely. It increases the revenue of the hotels, but it also increases the experience of the consumer. Like they wouldn't know. Like you're giving them knowledge, you're teaching them like, hey, I would never, because the whole wine and food pairing, everybody's into that. But the beer and food, beer is complex. Certain beers are complex, and they have excellent tastes. And there are certain foods that pair with a certain beer. Maybe you have a lager. Maybe eat something spicy dish, and then you can put the fire out with a lager. In that respect, or if it's a darker beer, maybe like you said, maybe a pie or something like that, or something richer, right? That would go with it.
Absolutely. So. I actually do a lot of business with Samuel Adams,
and
went to a dinner with them a couple years ago, and it was strictly a beer and food pairing dinner. And I will tell you, some of the dishes and the pairings I had that night just kind of opened my eyes. And things that I would have never thought of pairing together. I think, the most memorable one was almost like a raspberry lambic type beer, or like a cherry lambic type beer.
Right.
And they paired it with this like lamb shank covered in a tart cherry glaze.
Oh my God.
And just, the acidity of both of those together was amazing. And it's, the beer was changed because of the food. So I think, beer and food pairings are as good as wine and food pairings. And, it's a world that we have yet to really uncover. Oh,
absolutely. Especially the Belgian beers, they're fantastic.
Yeah.
Definitely. Really good, well-made Belgian beers, especially from Belgium. They know what they're doing. They're like the Germans. They know, they love beer. I remember there's a restaurant in London. I used to live in England. It's called Belgo. And they just had like 100 Belgian beers on tap. It was fantastic. It was awesome. And then they had Belgian food too. And then they come out with these huge, flights, like with 10 glasses per flight and boards, and just put it on the table. And it was just fantastic beer. But, it goes very, very well with food. So, Sam Adams, I'm trying to get Jim Cook on the podcast. I met him. I have a picture with him, actually.
Oh, cool.
We met up in Portland. He was doing an event there, but I haven't been able to get him on. I've been in touch with the office there. Maybe you can nudge him along, see if we can get him on. I'll get him on one day. I'm talking to Sam. We're talking to Sam Dogfish Head. So I have his office on the line, and
very cool.
Hopefully we're going to get him on. He was busy. They merged, right? So Dogfish Head.
I was just going to say they're the same company now. So if you're talking to one, you're talking to the other.
So I called them in the summer. They're like, he's kind of busy now, like this merger. I'm like, that's cool. We're doing it in the fall. That's cool.
He had one or two things on his plate at the time.
Yeah, so I got to get back to them and see, hey, this thing is done now, so let's get him on. But he's a great guy. I've seen him live, and Jim is a fantastic guy too. Man, what they've done for the industry, the craft beer industry, their efforts and just promoting it, and it's just been fantastic, But But yeah, that's how you now. Have you always worked for the IMI Agency, or you've been in other companies, or how did that work? Like, what's your story?
So absolutely. So I've been with IMI Agency almost 5.5 years now. Prior to that, I actually worked for Total Wine and More, which is a huge retailer in the U.S. And I worked at their corporate office, and I was basically one of their beer buyers. So I worked on the beer buying team. So that's honestly where I first fell in love with craft beer, and where I first really gained my knowledge and got to know the breweries. I helped manage the new items process and decide, what beers would be sold in our stores across the country. Mm-hmm. And also helped, one of my favorite things to do is I helped write all of the name tags for the beers that are in the stores, and basically got to write beer reviews, and describe the beer. And so it was a huge educational experience for me. But that's really where I first fell in love with it.
Wow. Yeah, Total Wine and More. And it's just yeah, I mean, beer is great. It just brings everybody together, and it's just a great industry. I mean, the brewers are fantastic. Everybody have you been to the Great American Beer Festival and the Craft Brewers Conference? Have you gone that way, or like in Denver?
I I have yet to go to the Great American Beer Festival. I've almost gone 3 times, and it's either been, I have a conflict, or
oh my God,
someone gets sick, or the flight gets canceled, so I haven't made it out there. I have gone to the Craft Brewers Conference, though. Right. It was in DC a few years ago, so I got to go then and, meet tons of our beverage partners. But, Great American Beer Festival, that is on my bucket list, and someday I will make it out there.
I just came back, actually. It was a couple of weeks. They gave me a media pass because I'm a podcast. So
great. Yeah.
This is awesome. And I also got into the Craft Brewers Conference. And the next one is San Antonio Craft Brewers Conference. I think that's well worth it to go. Like, it's more of a business conference, right? There's people that are serious. Great American Beer Festival is like, hey, let's drink beer and... it's cool.
It's a party.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's a massive party, which is great too, but it's just different, the whole thing. And the connections and the people I met at the Craft Brewers Conference is fantastic. Well, even both places. I mean, just talking to brewers at the Great American Beer Festival and interviewing people is just great as well. So
what was the best beer you tried during the festival? I have to know.
Oh man, Stone gave me some type of, it was a Mexican type of beer. It was really good. It was in a bottle. It was corked. I'm like, and she put it like in the refrigerator. I'm like, I need some of that. I don't know what it is, but it's corked, so it must be good. Yeah. And she gave me some. It was really good. Stone is making great stuff. We also had some breweries in the Denver area. I think there's like 80 breweries just in the Denver area.
It's insane.
And we a lot of them have this Mexican theme, South American theme. So we stopped by a couple of them.
Cool.
Cerveceria Colorado. I'm calling them out because we had them on the podcast too. They're making really good stuff. And
nice.
Dos Luchas is good stuff. And we stopped at some other breweries as well. But I liked all the beers that I tasted. I didn't have any bad beers. It was just good. Good stuff.
Yeah, because everybody out there is, in the running for an award, I suppose, where they're trying to put their best foot forward when they're there.
They do, and they try to win the, the medals, and then they have a section where they have medal winners from last year. They bring the beers back, and then you can try them. So it's pretty cool. Yeah. And then home brewers went in. They had a Pro-Am competition, so they pair home brewers with commercial brewers, and then they enter stuff in, and so it's pretty cool. Nice. But yeah, and then local ingredients in beer. I mean, have you seen any like the type of beer? You must have tasted a lot of beers, I guess, in your journeys, and still.
Well, just a few.
The few. It's Cicerone, right? So you're so the local ingredients. I mean, what do you think about that in terms of what have you seen that kind of stood out in terms of local ingredients in beer?
Sure. So I think, one benefit of local ingredients, of course, is it's less of an environmental impact because the ingredients aren't traveling as far to get into the beer. Another thing is that the beer potentially is a little bit more fresh because they have, local ingredients in them. Yeah. But, a huge thing too is that adding local ingredients kind of adds an experience for the people coming to your brewery, especially if it's people from out of town who are coming in. Yeah. They see that as, it's local honey on the menu. Oh, I'm trying honey from here, or whatever's in there. It basically gives the beer a story and it gives the beer a sense of place. So I think more than anything, it's a selling point, having local ingredients on there. In addition to all the other benefits as well. So,
it is fresh.
I'm all for it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, all for it.
It is very fresh, and there's a British beer company. It's up in Manchester, and they have an airport near there. And they say everybody that comes in, they're for business, but they just come in and say, "Give me local, give me something local," because they want some local. They want some local beer, local ingredients. Just add to it. And people love local honey. And like you said, the fresh stuff, we use local maple syrup up in New Hampshire and use local honey. There's a beekeeper down the road. And we even use local hot sauce. There's a wing place up the street, so we infuse hot sauce in our beer. And people love that.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's funny because it's local definitely started with food, I think. And then, eventually got into the beverages. And so now it's, flooding the beer market, flooding, cocktails too, just So it's, I think it's just here to stay.
It's a great thing, farm to table and local brewers. That's what we're trying to promote, everything local, to help people, because they work hard. They don't have these huge marketing budgets to get out there, and they don't. A lot of people don't know that they're around, and that's what I'm trying to do with the craft beer weekends too. Just bring a brewer in, and then put them on a bus the next day, and bring them to local breweries, and just expose these guys to, what these breweries are doing. I mean, they're working very hard, and they're making excellent products. So
yes,
it's a good thing. And what do you see like in the beer business today? Challenges that are going on based on your journeys?
Sure. So I think a big one is the market saturation issue.
Yeah.
And the fact that there are just so many craft breweries opening, and then so many closing, unfortunately, as well, right? Because they just can't compete. So I think staying competitive and producing beers that, get drinkers' attention. Yeah. It is becoming harder and harder, because on a Saturday, if you're deciding what local brewery to go to, what's going to make you go to one over the other? Is it the quality of the beer? Is that they have a special event going on? Is it that, one allows you to bring your dog, one doesn't? What is it? So market saturation is huge. And I think another huge challenge is quality control. I think one mistake can destroy your business. Yeah. Right. You could have one quality issue and be forced to recall, 2 months of products that you've put out into the market. If you
scale up. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So it's a huge issue. But, of course, if you ever have a quality concern, you have to address it. You have to take care of it, because if you try to cover it up, that's even worse. Right? If you address it, right? Because if people find out, then
just throw some hops in, it'll be fine,
Yeah, you're fine.
People do that. I'm like, what are you doing? It's like vinegar with hops. What are you doing?
It's like you're done for. You can't do that.
No.
So I think quality control is a huge issue too.
It is, and we're very clean here, and just crazy clean. I mean, I've had some issues in the past where they didn't clean fermenters out totally, and the beer just turned to vinegar, and I'm like, what happened here? And then I just changed the process from that point on, and we take extra steps and make sure everything is just clear, and then people come in and they like the beer. So I mean, we do a lot of good work with cleanliness, and that's important, very important. I mean, it's food, it's very easy for bacteria to just explode, multiply quickly, and just destroy beer. So it's not good.
Of course. And if you get any guests sick and, they can trace it back to your brewery, then you're screwed.
God forbid. You are screwed. Yeah. And the health department comes in. Yeah. They close you down. Simple. Mm-hmm. My God. But there's the big beer and then the craft beer. So what do you think about each? And how does it compare? People, there are people who like the big beer, and as long as they like beer, I guess I like them. That's why I interviewed John Kimmick. Yeah, John Kimmick of The Alchemist in Vermont, and he's like, you know what? If they like beer, I like them. I'm like, you know what? That's a good philosophy and outlook. So,
it's awesome.
What do you think about it?
Well, I'm glad you asked this. This is one of my favorite questions. I am a huge craft beer fan, but I don't necessarily think that bigger means better in every case. I love finding local small breweries and supporting their business and, seeing what they have to offer and trying the cool creative things that they're coming out with. I personally, if I'm drinking something, will almost always choose a local craft option over a national brand product. But everyone has a different palate. Everyone likes different things. And what one drinker might like, another won't. So comparing big beer to craft beer, I think, and this is a total generalization, right? But I think some of the bigger guys who've been around for a long time have a little bit more consistency with their product because they've had time to master it, especially with the amount that some of these brands are putting out. Their consumer wants the same beer that they drink every time to taste exactly the same. Mm-hmm. I think some of the smaller breweries don't have that consistency. Is that necessarily a bad thing? No. Sometimes you'll want to taste a stout from one brewery and see how maybe they've changed it up the next year, right? And how it tastes a little bit different with the 2019 release of this beer.
Yeah.
But I think not only with consistency, but with operational practices and safety, and again, back to the whole quality concern thing, I think the bigger guys have a little bit more, have something on the smaller guys. That being said, I think the smaller guys have definitely been a lot more creative than the bigger guys.
Yeah.
Not only in their styles, but in their naming conventions, in their labels for the bottles.
Mm-hmm.
They've done a masterful job of getting the public's attention to drink their products. And it's entertaining. It's entertaining seeing what, new beer names are coming out. So,
oh yeah, you have to be consistently innovative, and you got to come out with something new. Like you were saying before, what makes your brewery different? New stuff.
Yes.
New. And there's a lot of complaints, like brewers are like, my God, like what else are we going to do? So, you always got to come up with a new thing and get people in, which is great. But also, like the bigger breweries, their quality control it's second to none. I mean, it's fantastic, right? And you can, there's going to be consistency in the beer. Like if you brew it here, or you brew it in Australia, or you brew it in wherever,
right,
it's going to be the same beer, and they've got it down. But like you said, also you have the smaller breweries, which are inefficient, but the inefficiency is good. And like it's not going to be the same one, but that's cool because you don't want the same thing. Or maybe you do want the same thing, but, it depends on the person. But I think most people want to just try new things. So if it's a little different next time, it's okay.
Right.
And also pivoting. Like, big breweries, produce 1 million barrels. They can't just pivot. All right, let's just make a stout today. But a smaller brewery with like 3 barrels, let's make a stout today. It's no problem. Okay. And then they'll make another beer tomorrow and make another beer. So they can pivot quickly or go into bottles and cans when that whole thing happened. You pivot and you survive, gets
there's a little more artistry to it, a little bit more creativity,
Yeah. And then what do you think about the U.S., like emerging craft beer regions, like beer meccas? What do you see in the U.S., like as places where that are up and coming and developing?
Sure. So, I think what Napa and Sonoma are for wine travelers, places like Asheville and Denver, and even, like Richmond, Virginia now, and a couple other big cities, Portland, Oregon, those are becoming destinations for beer lovers. My husband and I have definitely taken trips to several places in the U.S. with the main intention of visiting the local breweries and checking out what beer they're offering. I personally think that these meccas are only going to grow, and also that they're going to keep finding new ways to both lure and entertain beer lovers. So I'm excited to see in the next 10 years. What other cities pop up on the map as, emerging beer destinations, and, what other gimmicks they can come up with to get people to come visit them.
But you're right. All the cities that you mentioned are, what I see as well, like people talking about, like going to North Carolina. Like, why are you going to North Carolina? Oh, yeah, there's a lot of beer down there in Asheville, right? And then in Richmond, too, is blowing up. There's a lot of breweries in Richmond. I took a trip down to Roanoke, actually, because I had people come up from Virginia. And they're like, yeah, come on down, put a brewery there. I'm like, all right, let me go down. So I went down and, I started talking to some people. We couldn't put something together, but it's a beautiful area and there's a lot of good stuff happening there, a lot of good beer. And, it's a good thing, just going to different areas. In Denver, like I just said, they have 80 breweries. So, and usually they win, Colorado and California win most of the medals, but they have the most breweries. Like California has 1,000 breweries in the state. It's crazy, so those are great cities that you mentioned for beer.
Good.
So, and then, beer versus wine, you're like a sommelier and a cicerone. But what are the biggest difference you think between the industries? Because everybody, I don't know, the way you talk to different people and like, well, wine, is our breweries approaching saturation? And they're like, well, it's like 7,500 and then there's like 11,000 wineries. And the 11,000 wineries, the ones that can grow grapes are very regional, it's limited to where they are. Although some wineries like just get grape juice and make wine, right? But most of them do grow their own grapes. So, I mean, what do you think about the biggest differences in the industries and about a craft beer bubble? What do you think about that? Do you think that's happening, or what do you think?
I think we're definitely going to see the craft beer bubble play out in the next couple of years and determine whether it's real. I think that is coming. But as far as the differences between beer and wine, let's see, I'd love to touch on just the, I guess like the emotional differences, right, between the two industries. I think for, whenever we have, and this is again a generalization, but when we have wine individuals come into our office and tell us about their products, it's a completely different experience than when we have brewers or folks that are sales representatives for breweries coming in. I think beer in the whole industry sometimes is a little bit more approachable and, honestly, somewhat less snooty than wine, at sometimes. When talking about wine with people, sometimes it's about, trying to find out what the other person does or doesn't know. Whereas if you're talking about beer with someone, it seems to be a little bit more about getting to know the other person and just have a great conversation and have fun. I think in the beer industry, there's definitely camaraderie and open arms.
It's more relaxed.
And it's a little bit more relaxed. I personally love both. I also help pour at a local winery out in Loudoun County in Virginia. Oh, wow. So, I'm very involved with the local wine industry. And, I love both industries. I love both products. But there's just something about beer. I don't know if it's because it was my first love or what. But I just love the camaraderie. I love how it's just centered around getting together and having fun with one another. So I think that's, in my mind, the biggest difference between the two.
Oh yeah, like at the festivals, like the Craft Brewers Conference, it's like, they're on stage and they're like where else are you going to go where there's like 14,000 people and everybody's happy? Like where are you going to go? And like nowhere, unless there's like a game and somebody went, like a team wins or something like that. But it's like beer brings everybody together, and you drink beer when things are great, you want to celebrate, and if things are bad, you drink beer. I mean, it's a fantastic beverage that brings people together, and communal tables, and in Europe they've done it for centuries, and it's kind of creeping into the U.S. now in terms of local breweries popping up. I mean, in Germany, every town has a brewery, I mean, So, have you lived abroad or done any adventuring abroad in terms of beer? And
well, in terms of beer, I haven't yet done an international trip with the purpose of going to breweries, but of course, I've always wanted to go to Oktoberfest. So, hopefully awesome. In the next couple of years, I'll get over there for that.
You got to put that on your bucket list. Yes.
I've done a couple trips recently in the past couple of years to the UK. I went to England, Scotland, and I even went to Iceland, a little north. But wow. in all three of those places, I made sure to check out the local beer and what was available in those countries. So I think Iceland probably had the most variety, which was pretty cool.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we went to Reykjavik this past spring, and I looked up every single craft brewery in the city, and I think it was about 6 or 7 of them, and we made sure to hit all of them. And you can tell that the brewers over in Europe are copying the Americanized craft beer model, right? Mm-hmm. Whereas, years ago we were trying to, definitely make Belgian beers and German beers, and of course we still are. But I think they are really trying to mimic our craft beer model, just because of how successful it's been in the U.S., right? And they're trying to replicate that, just that environment and that menu. So, it'll be interesting to see what they do, in the next couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, I've been to Ireland and I lived in England for like 5 years, and they have fantastic beer, and that turned me on to like the darker beers, and at room temperature. Like I'd never think I would drink a beer at like room temperature, but then I go into the pubs there and it's like delicious, it's fantastic, and I'm like, wow, this is great. It just opened my eyes to a whole different type of beer. But also now they're trending toward, the hops, and they want to Americanize a lot of stuff, and they're just trying to break away from older styles and create new things, and it's just very interesting. And in Iceland, did they have the hot springs there? Did you go to the hot springs?
Oh, we definitely went to some hot springs. It was great. We went to the Blue Lagoon, which is this giant man-made pool. So it was at 10 a.m. It was amazing. It was 10 a.m. and you're in this giant hot spring, and they give you like 2 or 3 free beer tickets.
That's so awesome.
You get to swim up.
You know what?
And of course it was June, but it was 40 degrees outside, and so you're in this hot tub, and you go up to the the swim up pool, and you're just like, this is the life. You know
what? I'm gonna run the New York City Marathon this Sunday.
Are you really?
Yes, and I'm going to get on a plane and fly to Iceland and get in one of those hot springs and drink beer. I think that's the plan.
Oh my gosh!
I could take you from JFK, no?
Oh, I can't. So not to segue topics, but my other love in life is running.
Oh, you do? Okay.
I've done several marathons, but I've
Did
never done New York,
or no?
and that is so cool. I have not. Was this your first time?
I haven't done.
Have
Well, I did last year. I did the Marine Marathon in D.C., which is pretty cool. It was a very, very great experience, like the monuments and the.
Yeah.
It was very emotional. Very emotional. The Marines there and the Blue Mile. Like if you didn't cry if you ran through that thing, like you're not a human being, because it had the memorials, like for all the Marines that lost their lives in battle. It was just very emotional. And then I'm like, I got to do this once a year. I got to do it once a year. That keeps me like focused, like, because I was gaining weight after I stopped. I'm like, this is not good. So I just signed up. I signed up for another marathon. I did it through the American Cancer Society, so I'm raising some money for them. So I raised $2,000 already. I'm trying to. They have a goal of 3,200, so I got to raise that in a a days. I don't know. I have to figure it out.
Good for you.
But they got me in, and yeah.
Tell me how that goes. I can't wait to hear about it.
I will. I heard from everybody. It's like fantastic experience. I mean, so, yeah, we're just here we go. But I think the hot springs after that would be fantastic. I think that's you talked about
that'll
Iceland.
Fix everything. That'll fix every storm offer you have.
I think that's the plan. I got to look at tickets.
It's like the natural salts and everything. Oh yeah.
You'll my God. Oh, all right. I got to do it. But yeah. So listen, it was fantastic to have you on. You have so much knowledge, and your company is really a juggernaut. I know you merged, so you're gonna be number one probably. I think you were number two, but when you're merging with this company, you'll probably be number one.
Right.
Real, hotel and resort management agency, right? I mean, and you're handling the beverage for all that. So yeah, your workload is probably going to double, I guess, right?
We'll see what we're just kind of, taking it as it comes.
You're kind of like, all right, okay. Well, no, I think that's good. So I think, I appreciate you being on. I appreciate your knowledge. If people want to get a hold of you and ask you some questions, how do they get a hold of you?
Sure. I can be reached on my email, and that is hcleister, Leister 11 @gmail.com.
That's cool. And you have a LinkedIn profile too, so you can go on there.
Absolutely. They can find me on LinkedIn,
I'll
definitely.
put the links in there, and then they can check you out. But Hilary, I appreciate you being on, and I hopefully we can work together on some food and beer stuff. And I appreciate you introducing me to those hotels in New England. It was fantastic. You're like, all right, let me take care of this, and you blasted out, I think, an email to everybody. Within an hour, I got like responses. I'm like, this is awesome.
Great.
So
well, thanks so much for having me on.
I appreciate your help, and anytime you want to come on, let me know. But
okay,
we'll talk to you soon.
Great.
All right, take care.
Bye.
And that was Hilary Leister. Senior Beverage Coordinator for Interstate Hotels and Resorts. Huge company. It just merged with somebody else too. I think they were number 2. Like they had $4 billion in revenue with a B. That's crazy money. And they just merged with some other company, so they'll probably be number 1 now. Massive company. It's just unbelievable. The beverage industry, hotel management, hospitality. It's a huge industry. And she has some good things to say. And I hope you enjoyed, she's a great positive person. It's awesome. We love having positive people on a podcast. And, she's done a lot of stuff and knows what she's talking about. So if you like what we're doing, if you like our podcast, go on iTunes, give us a rating, give us a review. That's the only way we get up in the rankings. Tell a friend, tell 10 friends. Shoot me an email, michael@craftbeerstorm.com if you got somebody I can interview on the podcast. This is for you. It's all for you. It's all free, right? Podcasts are free. You just download them and listen to them. But we do this for you guys. So help me out. Give me a rating. Give me a review. Even click those 5 stars. That's cool. They have those algorithms, and it just gets us up in the rankings, gets more notice, and then more people know about us, and we just spread the word of craft beer. Our downloads are going up. I think this month, October is going to be the highest ever. Damn. Let's keep going, man. It's cool. All right. So I wish you a great rest of the day. I thank you for being here. I thank you for supporting us and listening. I love you guys, and we will talk soon. Wednesday, Beer Styles. Be there. Take care.